This will be a simple tutorial on deleting a background and creating a PNG with a transparent background from a flat file. So in RGB, with the RGB selected, and you go into layers, you select all. Control A, Command A, copy, activate or click on the channels layer, channels window here, drag down to create new channel and paste. Control V, Command V. Now you want to invert to get a negative of this image. This is what we would use for a template. Now notice as you blow up, there's some fuzzy edges, some pixel data along the edge. You can read the content there. It's 5% dots. You don't want that. So what we'll do is I need to make this solid, or at least enable me to make a magic wand tool selection out here that does not capture any of this extra junk. So we're going to adjust the levels, Command L or Control L on a PC, and take the left side, that is the shadow end, and drag it over to the right. You can see the effect on hand, and take the highlight range, and that's going to burn out your gray areas. And I want to create a sharp that still has a little bit of gray here, so I want to fill that in to where that's solid. But you'll see though that'll make my line a little fatter than what I need. So I'm going to burn out some more gray and fill in just a little bit more on the black. So now there might be some areas that are not as clean as I would like them. You can simply take the brush tool or the pencil tool and decrease the size of that brush. Take a look at it, see how big it is. You want to get very small, almost to 1 to 2 pixels, 4 pixels, and then using the foreground or background color, you can paint in areas that are gray or that you want to clean up. Take away that. Totally fine if you don't want to go into the detail of making this perfect. You just want a clear background. So now I can make an easy selection using the magic wand tool. You can just type in W on the keyboard, and that will jump from whatever brush to the wand tool. And the tolerance on something very sharp and clean like this with no gray data should be somewhere in the range of 25 to 50. So it doesn't matter, 32 is fine. It's going to make a very clean selection. And you click on the outside area. And you see that selected all of this inside, even inside my letters, because I had a little gap here based on this particular type style. So all you simply do now is invert the selection, or so that, because right now you have the outside here to be able to be worked on. You can't paint on the inside of here because that's a mask. So I need to reverse that selection. You can view down and you can see that it's the outside part that is selected. So on my Mac I can type Control-Shift-I. I'm sorry, on the Mac it's Command-Shift-I. On the PC it's Control-Shift-I, which is also found under Select and Inverse. And these are your key commands. Now, as you see, because it's still a mask, I can paint inside of this. And I'm just going to type in D to make sure I have default black and white colors, and then switch this to have black in the foreground, and I'm going to type Alt Delete or Option Delete on the Mac, and that creates my mask. Now I'm going to select this by holding down the Control key or the Command key, click on the layer to activate that layer and every pixel in there. Go back to RGB in the layers file and type in, while it's still selected, you type in Command J, and it takes a copy of what was on that bottom layer and it duplicates the selection and puts it on that top layer. Now if you notice, there's a little bit of background gray area that has been also selected. A quick way to get rid of that is to select the lock icon right above it. That's the lock layer and not the lock all. So you're locking the element in the layer by using this one. This locks the entire layer and you can't do anything with it. So here I want to hold down the Control key or the Command key, click on that layer, and that makes a selection of my layer content again. And I'm going to contract this selection so that I go inside into the white area here. And I can go to Select, Modify, Contract, let's say 2 pixels. And if you paint on this, you'll see what you're activating, and that's the inside of the layer. Now I'm going to reverse this selection again, Control-Shift-I, and now I'm painting on the outside of the layer. But you see, I had this locked, so it doesn't paint out here unless you unlock it, which I just did. So everything you paint on the outside will become white. We don't want that, so undo that and lock the layer, and now you see that you can paint a white outline around that type. Now what you can do is fill it, because you're only going to affect the layer and the locked content on the outside because it's locked. So Option Delete fills that with white. View back down and you can get the idea that you now have a decent selection with all white all the way around the logo. If you didn't want the white stripe and all you wanted was the inside art, that would be a different step and for another tutorial. Unlock the layer again, and if you wanted, if there were some areas that just doesn't look too clean, you can blow up on it, take your brush tool, put white in the foreground, reduce the pencil tool down to the size you needed, and click on the area, hold the shift key, and then you can just drag across. It makes a nice straight line. If I want to delete this, then I don't use black because I would be painting with black. What I would use is the eraser tool and change that to a hard edge and the pencil and reduce that down and eat away at that. And that cleaned up that little edge there. Couple little nods here, couple there, and depending on how much you want to clean it up, you can go back to the brush tool, whiten the foreground, click and just drag straight down. Cleans up that edge. You can even paint over original content to make that a nice crisp straight line. Here again, I'll use the eraser tool and eat away at that. I can eat away at this and paint that. Brush tool, pencil tool. Give it a once over again, and that should be pretty good. Now, you have a transparent image, and I will, to save this, like I would save this and call it a work file, IGY6. The reason I save it as a work file is I want a copy with all my layers. And now I can delete these two background layers and any other channels, and I can trim this down a little closer. And save as a PNG. And I'm going to embed my color profile because I wanted to view and print how I see it in my color setup. And I know my color setup is correct. So that way it saves the color content data, the numbers of the colors, in the file. It embeds it into the file so that when another company opens up that art file, it's got the same colors in it, the same color data that you were using on your computer. That helps files look consistent. And so I'm going to name this print file and save. Large file size, faster savings, it's fine. And click out. I don't need to save the original because I've already saved it. And that's that.